Every time I see you, I wonder if this is really the best I can do, she said while getting ready for a party. So I packed my things that night. Now I'm thriving, and she's asking mutual friends about me. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. The scent of her perfume, something light and floral with a name I could never remember, filled our bedroom. It was the smell of our Friday nights, of dinners out, of lazy Sunday mornings. For 5 years, that scent had been the backdrop to my life. I sat on the edge of our bed, tying the laces of my shoes, watching her. Claire was at the vanity, the one I'd built for her after she'd pinned a picture of it on Pinterest. Her brow was furrowed in concentration as she put in a small silver earring. The soft light from the lamp caught the highlights in her hair, and for a moment, my chest tightened with that old, familiar ache of affection. She was beautiful. She was my person, or so I thought. You look incredible tonight, I said, my voice cutting through the quiet hum of the city outside our window. It was a simple, honest statement. She did. She was wearing a black dress I hadn't seen before, one that hugged her frame in a way that was both elegant and subtly powerful. She didn't turn. Her eyes met mine in the mirror's reflection, but they were distant, like she was looking at a statue in a museum she'd passed 100 times. Every time I see you, she said, her voice flat, devoid of any emotion, I wonder if this is really the best I can do. The words didn't register at first. They were just sounds, bizarre and out of place, like hearing a fire alarm in a library. I stared at her reflection, waiting for the punchline, for the wry smile that would usually follow one of her dark, ironic jokes. It never came. My own smile felt frozen, stupid, on my face. What did you just say? She let out a soft, exasperated sigh, as if I'd asked her to explain a simple concept for the 10th time. She finally turned from the mirror, picking up her clutch from the dresser. You heard me, Alex. It's just a thought I have. Sometimes. She glanced at me, a flicker of something, impatience, pity in her eyes. Don't make a big deal out of it. Are you ready to go? We're going to be late. She walked out of the bedroom, the floral scent trailing behind her like a ghost. I didn't move. The room, once a sanctuary, now felt like a crime scene. The air was thick and heavy, pressing down on me. Every time I see you. The phrase echoed, each word a shard of glass grinding into my mind. It wasn't a comment about a forgotten anniversary or an argument over chores. This was different. This was foundational. This was a truth she had carried, a constant, silent measurement I had been failing without ever knowing there was a test. Every time. Did she think it when I made her coffee in the morning? When I held her after a bad day at work? When I told her I loved her? The best I can do. I looked around the room. At the pictures on the wall of us hiking, laughing. At the books on my nightstand she'd recommended. At the life we had built, brick by brick, over half a decade. In her eyes, it wasn't a home. It was a settlement. A compromise she was constantly, silently reevaluating. The numbness began to recede, replaced by a cold, clear clarity that was somehow more terrifying than rage or sorrow. It was the feeling of a door, one I didn't even know was there, swinging silently shut. I stood up. My legs felt steady. My hands were not shaking. I walked out of the bedroom and found her by the front door, slipping on her heels, completely oblivious to the nuclear winter she had just unleashed inside me. Ready? She asked, not really looking at me. Yeah, I said, my voice strangely calm. I'm ready. And I was. Just not for the party. The party was a blur of noise and false light. I moved through it like an apparition, my smile a rigid, practiced mask. Every laugh from Claire felt like a needle. Every glance she gave another man felt like a confirmation of her cruel, offhanded thesis. I watched her, truly watched her, for the first time in years. I saw the way her eyes scanned a room, not for me, but for something, or someone, more interesting. I saw the performative laugh she offered to a guy from her office, the one in the too-tight blazer who kept touching her arm. I saw the vacancy in her eyes when she looked back at me, a flicker of annoyance that I was still there, anchoring her to a reality she clearly considered beneath her. The words played on a loop in my head, a terrible mantra set to the thrum of bass from the speakers. Every time I see you, the best I can do. An hour in, I found her by the punch bowl, refilling her glass. I'm going to head out, I said, my voice even, betraying none of the tectonic plates shifting inside me. She turned, a flash of irritation on her perfect features. What? Why? We just got here. I have a headache, I lied. It wasn't a headache. It was a systemic failure. The foundation of my life was crumbling, and I needed to be away from the noise to let it fall. She rolled her eyes, a gesture I'd once found endearing. Now it felt like a dismissal of my entire existence. Fine. Whatever. I'll get an Uber later. She was already turning back to the party, her attention a currency she was no longer willing to spend on me. I didn't say goodbye. I just walked out, the cool night air hitting my face like a blessing. The silence of the drive home was deafening, but it was a clean silence. It was mine. Our apartment felt different when I returned. It was no longer a home. It was a set for a play that had just ended its final performance. The lingering scent of her perfume was now cloying, suffocating. The photos on the walls were lies captured in glass and wood. I didn't rage. I didn't cry. I moved with a calm, terrifying efficiency. From the top shelf of the closet, I pulled down my old duffel bag and a single, hardshell suitcase. I started in the bathroom, clearing my shelf of toothpaste, deodorant, my razor. I left the cologne she'd bought me for my birthday 2 years ago. It sat there, a monument to a man she'd been trying to build. In the bedroom, I opened my drawers. I packed my jeans, my t-shirts, my sweaters. I left the cashmere scarf she'd given me last Christmas, the one she said, finally made you look sophisticated. I packed my important documents, passport, birth certificate, social security card, from the lockbox. I took the laptop, my chargers, the book I was reading from my nightstand. I was a surgeon, meticulously removing a malignant organ. I was leaving behind the connective tissue of our shared life, the shared blankets on the couch, the matching coffee mugs, the grocery list stuck to the fridge with a magnet from a trip we'd taken. All of it was part of the best she was settling for, and I wanted no trace of it on my skin. When the bags were by the door, I stood at the kitchen counter, a blank notepad in front of me. What was there left to say? All the love, the history, the future we'd planned. It had been vaporized by a single, casual sentence. I picked up a pen. My hand was steady. Claire, I heard you. You deserve to find the best. I won't stand in your way. My key is on the counter. Do not contact me. Alex, I took a picture of the note with my phone, a cold, clinical act of self-preservation. Then I placed my key on top of the paper, the metal clicking softly against the granite. I slung the duffel over my shoulder and wheeled the suitcase behind me. I took one last look at the apartment, at the life I was walking away from. There was no nostalgia, only a profound and chilling sense of finality. I didn't know where I was going. I drove until I saw the neon glow of a motel sign, the Starlight Inn. It was cheap and looked vaguely sad. Perfect. The room was exactly what I needed, sterile, anonymous, and utterly silent. I dropped my bags on the floor. The adrenaline that had fueled my methodical escape began to fade, and in its place, a crushing weight descended. It wasn't just heartbreak. It was the annihilation of my self-worth. I sat on the edge of the stiff mattress, in the dark, and finally let the silence consume me. The image of her in the mirror, the flatness in her voice, played over and over. And then, my phone buzzed in my pocket. A single, sharp vibration. I pulled it out. The screen glowed in the dark room. A text from Claire. Claire, are you seriously just gone? You're being so dramatic. My Uber's here. We need to talk when I get home. I looked at the message. I looked at the note I'd written, saved now as a digital file. I looked at the duffel bag by the door, containing everything I now owned in the world. My thumb hovered over the screen. Then, with a calm that felt like power, I opened her contact info. I tapped block this caller. A confirmation pop-up appeared. Are you sure you want to block Claire? I was sure. I tapped yes. In the silence of the motel room, I began the long, quiet work of forgetting the sound of her voice. The first week in the motel was a study in silence. It wasn't the empty silence of the apartment, which had been heavy with her ghost. This was a new, raw silence, filled only with the hum of the cheap mini fridge and the distant whine of highway traffic. I didn't cry. I felt hollowed out, scooped clean. The pain was a low, constant thrum, like a toothache of the soul. I spent my first free Monday at a coffee shop with my laptop, the buzz of strangers a welcome anesthetic. I found a real estate website and sorted listings by price, low to high. I wasn't looking for a home. I was looking for a bunker. A place to heal. I rented the first one I saw that was cheap, clean, and available immediately. A studio apartment in a building with no memories, on the other side of the city. It was beige, boxy, and utterly perfect. Moving in was a solitary, surreal experience. My duffel bag and single suitcase looked lost in the middle of the empty space. The echo of my own footsteps was the only sound. I bought a mattress, a desk, a single chair. I didn't decorate. I didn't need to. This wasn't about building a life. It was about building a foundation, and foundations are poured in bare concrete. The silence was my cocoon. I stopped listening to the music we used to share. I cooked simple meals for one. I went to the gym not to get ripped, but to exhaust my body enough to quiet my mind. The rhythmic clank of weights, the burn in my muscles. It was a different, more honest kind of pain. It was pain I could control. Work became my sanctuary. I buried myself in code, in projects, in the clean, logical architecture of systems that behaved predictably. I started staying late, not because I had to, but because I preferred the empty office to the emptiness of my apartment. My boss noticed. "Everything okay, Alex? You seem focused." "I am," I said, and it was the truth. I was focused on the single project of rebuilding Alex. Weeks bled into a month. The sharp, jagged edge of the betrayal began to dull, sanded down by routine and solitude. I started reading again, books I chose for myself. I went to a movie alone and realized, halfway through, that I wasn't wondering what Claire would think of it. It was a small, quiet revelation. Then, the first signal from the world I'd left behind pierced my bubble. It was a text from Mike, a mutual friend, one of the good ones. "Mike, hey man, long time. You free for a beer sometime?" I knew in my gut it wasn't just a beer. I waited an hour before replying, not out of games, but because I needed to decide how to handle it. Me, "Hey Mike. Swamped with work at the moment, but I appreciate the offer." The three dots appeared immediately. "Mike, no worries. Just, ran into Claire the other day. She seems really torn up. She said you just vanished? What happened, dude?" There it was. The first probe. I felt a cold stillness settle over me. This was the test. Me. She expressed that she felt she could do better. I agreed with her and removed myself from the situation. I paused, then added the crucial, firm boundary. I prefer not to discuss it further. The dots danced, then stopped. A minute passed. "Mike, okay. Okay, man. I get it. For what it's worth," she seemed lost. "Take care of yourself." "Me, you too." I put the phone down. My hand was steady. I had done it. I had stated the facts without emotion, without blame, and shut down the inquiry. I felt a flicker of something, not satisfaction, but strength. A week later, another signal, this one from Jess, who was closer to Claire. "Jess, Alex, we need to talk." "What is going on?" "Claire's a mess. She says she didn't mean it. It was just a stupid thing she said." "Don't you think you overreacted?" This was more direct, an accusation wrapped in concern. She was already rewriting the history, turning a foundational dismissal into a stupid thing. I felt a spike of anger, but I let it cool before typing. Me. People say what they mean when they think there are no consequences. The consequence was me leaving. That's the end of it. I didn't wait for a reply. I silenced the conversation. The message was clear. The Court of Appeals was closed. The reports kept trickling in, not to me directly, but through the fragmented gossip of a shared social circle. A friend from my gym, who knew Jess, mentioned it casually. "Heard you and Claire split. Sounded messy." "Not really," I said, re-racking a weight. "It was very clean." He nodded, sensing the finality. "Yeah, well, she's not doing great, from what I hear. Asking about you all the time. If you're dating. Where you're living." I made a non-committal sound, and moved to the next machine. The information was like weather report from a country I no longer visited. Mild desperation with a chance of regret. It had nothing to do with me. And then, one evening, as I was reviewing a project plan in my clean, quiet studio, a profound sense of peace settled over me. I looked around. There were a few more things now. A plant I'd kept alive for a month, a print I'd bought at a street fair. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It was full of my own thoughts, my own breath. I was thriving, not in a loud, boastful way, but in the quiet, resilient way a forest grows back after a fire. I was stronger. I was calmer. I was, for the first time in a long time, entirely myself. And she was just a woman I used to know, asking mutual friends about a ghost. The peace I built was a fortress, and the reports from the outside world were the distant echoes of a siege I never had to fight. My friends, the real ones, had stopped being conduits for her. They understood the wall was not made of anger, but of simple, unassailable fact. The chapter was closed. But the attempts didn't stop. They just found new, desperate channels. It started with an email from an address I didn't recognize, but the tone was unmistakably hers. "Alex, I know you don't want to hear from me. I don't even know if you'll get this. I just need you to know that I am so sorry. What I said was cruel and stupid, and it wasn't true. It was a bad day, I was stressed about the party, and I took it out on you. You were the best thing in my life, and I threw it away because I'm an idiot. I'm not doing well. I can't sleep in our apartment. Everything reminds me of you. My job is falling apart because I can't focus. I see now what I had. I see it so clearly it's killing me. Please, just a coffee. Just 5 minutes. I need to hear your voice. Claire." I read it once. Then I selected the text, copied it, and pasted it into a document I titled Closure. I archived the email. I felt nothing but a faint, clinical pity, the kind you might feel for a stranger on the news. She was still talking about her pain, her realization, her needs. There was no true understanding of the nuclear winter her words had caused in me. It was still all about her. A week later, a Facebook message from her cousin, a woman I'd met twice. "Hey Alex, I know this is weird, but Claire is really struggling. She's staying with me right now. She's a wreck. She knows she messed up big time. I know you don't owe her anything, but as one human to another, could you maybe just talk to her? Even a text? I think it would help her turn a corner." This was a new tactic, the humanitarian crisis. I felt a cold spike of anger at the manipulation, but it faded quickly. I typed my reply, the professional in full control. "Thanks for your concern. While I wish Claire well in her life, our relationship is over and further contact would not be healthy for either of us. I hope she finds the support she needs." I blocked the cousin. The final attempt came on a rainy Tuesday night. My phone vibrated with an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, a notification popped up. A voicemail had been left. Against my better judgment, I listened. Her voice was ragged, stripped of its usual polish, thick with tears and what sounded like wine. "Alex, God, please pick up. I know you're there. I'm at the old apartment. It's so empty. It smells like you're still here sometimes. I can't do this. I can't. You can't just erase me. You can't just walk away from 5 years like it was nothing. You were supposed to fight for me. You were supposed to prove me wrong." Her voice broke into a sob, then hardened with a shocking, venomous fury. "You're a coward, Alex. You're a cold, heartless coward. You ran away instead of dealing with it. You think you're so much better than me now? You think your silent treatment makes you a saint? It just makes you a weak, pathetic little man who couldn't handle one honest comment from the woman who loved him." The message ended with a click. I sat in the serene silence of my studio, the rain pattering against the window. I saved the voicemail. It wasn't a plea anymore. It was evidence. It was the raw, unfiltered truth she'd hidden behind 5 years of curated affection. The entitlement, the blame shifting, the absolute refusal to accept the consequences of her own actions. She hadn't loved me. She had loved the security I provided, the ego boost of my devotion. And when she thought she could get away with it, she had shown me the contempt she truly felt. I felt the last, fragile thread of doubt and connection snap. The fortress was now impregnable. She had no power here. The annual tech conference was the biggest event of the year for my industry. I was there with my team, having just delivered a presentation on a project I'd led. It had gone well. The handshakes, the nods of respect, the business cards being offered. It was a world away from the man tying his shoes in a silent bedroom, waiting for a scrap of affection. I was at a high-top table near the back, sipping a club soda and checking my phone, when I felt a presence. I looked up. Claire. She was standing there, looking out of place in the crowd of suits and tech wear. She had made an effort, the same black dress from that night, her hair done just so, but it couldn't hide the tension in her shoulders, the faint shadows under her eyes. She looked like a photograph of herself, slightly faded. "Alex," she said, her voice a fragile thing. "Oh my God. Hi. You look incredible." I didn't stand. I simply looked at her, my expression neutral. "Claire. Hello." The silence stretched. She floundered in it. I saw you speak. I didn't know you'd be here. A friend had a ticket. I was in the back. You were amazing." "Thank you," I said, my tone polite, the way you'd thank a waiter for refilling your water. "I've been hoping to talk to you," she blurted out, her words tumbling over each other. "What you heard me say that night, it was the biggest mistake of my life. It was a moment of insane insecurity. I was scared, Alex. Scared of how much I loved you. I didn't mean it." I took a slow sip of my drink, placing it back on the coaster with a soft click. "I think you did mean it," I said, my voice calm and even. "And you were right to wonder." It just took me hearing it to realize I was also wondering the same thing about you. She physically recoiled as if I'd slapped her. The color drained from her face. "What? No, that's not. Alex, please. We had so many years. Can we just get a coffee? Just talk? I've changed. I've been in therapy. I understand everything I took for granted." I looked at her, this woman who had once been the center of my universe. I searched for any flicker of the old pain, the love, the anger. There was nothing, just a vast, quiet landscape of peace. "There's nothing to talk about, Claire," I said, my voice firm but not unkind. It was simply final. That chapter is closed. I've built a life I'm very happy with, and I'm not interested in revisiting the past. Her composure shattered. The desperation I'd heard in the voicemail flashed in her eyes. You can't. I love you. Don't you remember what we had? The trips, the inside jokes, the future? It can't be over like this." "It is over," I said, my gaze steady. "It has been for a long time." I saw the anger then, the last, desperate weapon in her arsenal. "You're really this cold? After everything? I bared my soul to you." I didn't take the bait. I simply looked at my watch, a calm, definitive gesture. "I have to go. My team is waiting." I stood, picking up my portfolio. I looked at her one last time, not as a lover, not as an enemy, but as a person I used to know, a stranger with a shared, distant history. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Claire," I said. And I meant it. I genuinely wished her no ill will. She was simply no longer any concern of mine. I turned and walked away, merging back into the crowd of ambitious, forward-moving people. I didn't look back. I felt the warm weight of my team's respect, the solid certainty of my own path, the quiet joy of a peace I had built with my own two hands. She was a relic, a footnote, and as I walked towards my future, I didn't feel hate or triumph. I felt nothing at all for her, and in that nothingness, I found everything I would ever need. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.